start? Oh, it started.
Hey.
Hey guys. Shaman.
Yiara.
The one and only Dr. Yiara Blanco, who is world famous.
World famous.
World famous.
World famous.
Absolutely world famous.
Future Latina Oprah.
Future Latina Oprah. That's what we say about her. She's the future Latina Oprah.
Hey.
So anyway, we wanted to talk about some stuff today.
Yes, we do.
What are we talking about?
Today, we have one of the most interesting topics.
Okay.
Managing conflict. Agree to disagree. How's that?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. So one of the things that we find here a lot are couples that are coming in and saying, you know what, we argue all
Right.
the time. Our life is arguments all the time.
We don't even know how to communicate normally.
No.
Right.
Unless it's fighting.
Right.
So there are several things that I would love to share with people.
Sure.
And one of them is saying, you know what, you can actually have conflict and the relationship can still work and you can still get to a middle ground. How does that sound?
You know, Yolanda and I had this a while back. Someone asked us when we were talking to someone, when did you guys stop fighting? Or when did you guys not have conflict anymore? We're like, well, that's not even a thing. You know, it's how you manage that conflict, right? So yeah.
And one of the things that I love to tell people, and they usually get shocked, is like, the fact that you have arguments doesn't mean your relationship is going to end.
Absolutely. It's healthy to actually disagree.
The fact that you do not have arguments does not mean that your relationship is well.
Right. 100%.
And yeah, because those are misconceptions out there. It's like, oh, we never argue. And I'm like, do you really? Then are you really going deep? So today's topic is that. How do we do that? Sometimes we even do that in front of the kids.
Right.
Or sometimes we do the disservice of having it behind closed doors, and then kids don't ever learn how to manage conflict.
I was just about to say that, yeah, because it's important for our kids to learn how to be in relationships, and the way they learn that is what's modeled through us.
Yes.
Right.
So one of the most important things is understanding that when you're in a relationship, when we're relationships, we have two types of problems. The solvable problems and the perpetual problems.
Wait, which one am I?
I think you're perpetual. I think Yolanda would agree on that.
Okay.
So the solvable problems, I'm just joking. The solvable problems are the things that we can solve. For example, who's picking up the kids from soccer? What are we having for dinner? Things like that.
Right.
The perpetual problems are deeper rooted. For example, religion.
Right.
I'm Catholic, he's Jewish, I'm Catholic, he's Buddhist, whatever it is.
Like core value kind
core
of things.
values, personality traits, organization, cleanliness, punctuality. So when we tend to have those two types of problems, we have to know what are we working with.
Right.
The solvable problems, we just talk about the here and now, and it's solved. The perpetual problem requires a lot of time, and you may not even get to a solution on that one.
And you have to be okay with that.
Yes, you have to be okay with that. So let's start understanding that there's not just one type of problem, there are several. And then once you hit a wall, whether it's with a solvable problem or a perpetual problem, there are 5 steps that we can follow.
Okay.
And I love the steps. The first one is taking turns talking about how you felt during the event. You're not going to say, oh, but first you said that and you said that. No, I felt unheard. I felt abandoned. I felt scared.
Right, and it has to be these I statements.
Yes.
Right.
It's not you made me feel unheard or
my
you
experience
didn't.
was my, because that's you. It's not you like blaming that other person.
Exactly. This is the only thing that you can actually attest to.
Right.
The second one is taking turns on how we saw the situation. So I always suggest clients take 2-minute turns. You can even use the watch for this. 2 minutes, how you saw the situation. And for our partners or for ourselves to actually listen and see the other person's point of view.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to get there sometimes.
Yeah. It is hard. It is hard. But when you do that, you get to validate the other person's point of view, and you don't have to agree.
Right.
But you at least see where they're coming from.
Right. It's hard to take that step in, finding that common ground if you can't at least see where or why they have that perspective.
Yeah. one of the examples, it's like, oh, you abandoned me in the middle of that party.
Right.
So that's blaming. And then the other person automatically brings up the defenses.
Right.
You're making up stories.
Right.
I didn't abandon you. I was talking with coworkers. I can't be with you 24/7. You're such a child.
Right.
See how it gets into the you and me and doesn't really
it's all
validate.
This blame, right?
Doesn't validate the other person's point of view. The third one is then identifying the triggers. Why we went from 0 to 100.
Right. Why'd that set me off so much? Why'd that set you off so much?
Yeah.
Right.
And understanding that those triggers not necessarily come from the relationship.
Right.
We carry it.
Right.
In our
we
baggage.
tend to bring that in. Right.
Yes. So when we're able to share with our partners, hey, this is what happened when I was 10. I got lost in the middle of a theme park, and I was completely afraid and scared. And ever since, these issues of abandonment come up when I don't have you nearby, where I can't see you. Following up on the previous example.
Right. I mean, it has a story.
And
it's important to kind of understand, oh, this triggered you because of that story. Right.
And it will trigger at different moments when you least expect it.
Absolutely. Because if you could prepare for it, you could manage it.
That would be great. But that comes maybe along the line of introspection and getting to know each other and being more intentional on checking, doing that body scan, like what am I feeling? Am I starting to get defensive? Am I starting to get scared?
Right.
But that's another life.
Right. That's a whole other day.
Yeah, a whole other day. Then after you validate, you kind of own up. You take responsibility for your role in the relationship, in the event. Yes, I could have used a different tone, or I could have used different wording, or yes, I could have let you know, hey, I'm going to speak with a coworker over there. Are you okay? Do you want something while I come back?
Sure.
So owning that responsibility, because a relationship takes two.
Right. That's the old adage. It takes two to tango.
It takes two. So when you own your responsibility, you are giving the relationship the honor it deserves. It's like, yeah, you know what? My bad. I did this. I can completely see it. Which takes us to step 5, which is, what do you vow to do differently next time? Right.
That's the hard one. Making that turn to kind of go, okay, we're not gonna do the same old dance. We're gonna try something different.
Yeah. And knowing that it's gonna be work for you, it's gonna be work for your partner, but at the end, it's gonna work for the relationship in the big picture.
Well, what's amazing is that these are simple things if you think about it on face value. They're very hard to put in practice, and it takes a lot of practice to put them in practice. And that's the more you exercise that muscle, the better you get at it.
And the thing I always give clients this idea, when you point a finger out to somebody, there is one finger pointing out, there are 3 fingers pointing at you.
Oh, dang.
So before you blame, think about what 3 things could you have done differently, or can you do differently next time? And that little gesture is so quick. It reminds you, ooh, before I say you did this, there's 3 pointing at me. What can I do differently?
That's good.
That's a good one. I like that one.
I like that.
Then, to kind of wrap it up, I did make a comment at the beginning, how we kind of do this in front of our kids. So even though I'm not advocating for anybody to have arguments in front of the kids, it happens. It happens. So if you have an argument in front of the kids, take a time, go through the steps.
Model this to them.
Yes. And then come back to the kids, the 2 of you if possible, and say, okay, so you kind of heard us having an argument, and this is how we solved it. Because what happens when we don't share this process with the kids, they don't learn how to manage conflict. Or they go into their own relationships thinking, if we have a fight, that means it's
all
over.
Think about how much of a difference that could make if your kids had seen this model to you, through their whole life. And then how healthy they would be in relationships and conflict and all of that, if it just came intuitive to them, because that's what they've seen over and over and over again. I mean, that's incredible. What a lasting legacy to give your children.
It is. And I always share this. My parents used to argue behind closed doors.
I think that was the common.
So I didn't get to understand managing conflict until I was much later, and they kind of introduced me into, hey, This is the reality. We have our arguments behind closed doors, but this is how we figure it out.
Right.
But I was much older. I was already kind of into the arena of having friendships
Right.
and having my first little boyfriend and having issues
Right.
with that. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And that's when they kind of pulled me over, like, yeah, this is what we do, but we never did it in front of you.
Wow.
But now we're giving you the example. I'm like, oh, this works.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool to share that.
And I think that's those 5 steps. Those 5 steps. Take turns sharing your feelings. Take turns validating each other. Take turns in identifying the triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Take turns into taking responsibility. And finally, what do you vow to do differently?
Right, right.
And remember, 1 finger out,
3 back at
3
you.
fingers back at you.
So one thing I can say is Yiara is an expert at relationships. I mean, that's what she does, right? She's way up there. The cool thing is she does this with tons of couples.
Yeah.
I mean, giving tools and helping couples work through these kind of things and navigating conflict and all that. This is your day to day.
Yes.
And it's so cool to always see you help couples and to get feedback when those couples get help. It just blows my mind that people are like, she saved our marriage. And really, it's you and the work they're doing.
Yeah.
But, it's just really cool to always see that. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Yiara can definitely help you guys. So give us a call.
813-434.
3639.
Yeah.
Have a good day,
wonderful
guys.
day.